Pennsylvania, early 1960s. A boy with the last name Bowie grows up in a family where height is not just a number on a medical chart, but almost an inheritance. His father, Ben Bowie, was himself over 6.5 feet tall and once played for the legendary Harlem Magicians. His parents separated when Sam was 12. The boy lived between two homes, but the basketball court became the only place where he didn't have to divide anything. By high school, he had grown to over 6 feet 7 inches. The statistics already looked unreal at that point, over 28 points and 18 rebounds per game. The press began speaking of him as a future National Player of the Year. If you enjoy, just like I do, discovering the real stories behind NBA legends, their incredible highs, tragic downfalls, and the little-known facts that are rarely talked about today, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps the channel grow and makes new videos possible. Thank you. Now, let's continue. At the legendary Battle of the Giants tournament, he was matched head-to-head with another young center, Ralph Sampson. That evening, Sampson outplayed him completely. But that single loss did not stop the wave of interest from colleges. Dozens of universities pursued Bowie, and the choice fell on Kentucky. His first season in a Wildcats uniform went quietly, without any sensational performances, 12 points and 8 rebounds per game on average. But then came something that seemed impossible for a freshman in college basketball. In the summer of 1980, after a tryout in Colorado Springs, where 57 players competed for 12 spots, the 19-year-old Bowie made the United States Olympic team. The squad turned out to be the youngest in history. Alongside him were Isaiah Thomas and Mark Aguirre. It seemed like the gold medal in Moscow was practically within reach. But history had other plans. In December 1979, Soviet troops entered Afghanistan, and in January, President Carter announced a boycott of the Moscow Games. The team never set foot on the Olympic court. Instead of the games, the squad played a series of exhibition matches against NBA stars and won 5 out of 6 games, with Bowie finishing as the second leading scorer and the team's best in rebounds and blocks. He never received an Olympic gold medal. Only many years later did Congress award special commemorative medals to the participants of the boycotted team, a small consolation for a lost opportunity. It seemed that after such a start, the road to the top was wide open. And then the body intervened. In his second year at Kentucky, during a game against Vanderbilt, Bowie felt pain in his left shin. Doctors initially dismissed it as a common strain, something like shin splints, a minor issue that players push through. The diagnosis turned out to be far more serious. A true fracture of the tibia, a case where an error in the initial treatment ended up costing him 2 full seasons. While his peers played, accumulated stats, and caught the attention of NBA scouts, Bowie sat on the bench and rehabbed. He returned only in the 1983-84 season, already a fifth-year senior, a rarity by college basketball standards. And he returned strongly. He helped Kentucky reach the Final Four of the NCAA tournament, where the team lost to the eventual champions, Georgetown, with Patrick Ewing on the roster. Despite 2 years of inactivity, general managers around the league continued to see him as a safe pick with a high ceiling. Portland, at that time, desperately needed a center. Since Bill Walton's departure, the position had been an unfilled hole in the roster, whereas the team's backcourt was already well-stocked with Clyde Drexler and Jim Paxson. Trailblazers general manager Stu Inman made it clear in advance, if Bowie passed the team's medical examination, the pick would be his. The examination stretched over 7 hours. The team physician, orthopedist Bob Cook, studied the healing of the shin from every angle. Nothing alarming was found, at least not publicly. Bowie himself, when asked directly by the doctors, never once said that his leg was still bothering him. Years later, he would admit that the pain had actually been there. It's just that elite athletes rarely speak about it out loud when a place in history is on the line. On June 19, 1984, the draft took place in New York, one that would be remembered for decades. With the first overall pick, the Houston Rockets selected center from the University of Houston, Hakeem Olajuwon. With the second pick, Portland called Sam Bowie's name. League Commissioner David Stern announced the decision to applause from the crowd. In his first television interview as an NBA player, Bowie thanked his mother for her support and said he was fully ready after 2 missed seasons in college. There was no shortage of confidence in his voice. One spot after him, with the third pick, the Chicago Bulls selected a shooting guard from North Carolina named Michael Jordan. At that moment, it looked like a routine, logical draft decision. A team with strong guards needed a center, not another backcourt player. No one in the room could have known that these two names would forever be linked by one short phrase, Bowie over Jordan, which would become one of the most debated mistakes in professional sports history. His first season in the league went surprisingly smoothly. Bowie made the all-rookie first team, steadily scoring, rebounding, and displaying exactly the versatile game for which he had been selected. Problems began in his second season, under circumstances that were hard to foresee. In practice, a teammate fell directly onto his leg. The result? A fractured left shin, an injury so rare in professional basketball that doctors were baffled. Just as he returned to action, his third season brought another blow, a fracture of his right leg, sustained during what seemed like a completely harmless play with no contact, no apparent cause.
The irony of fate is that around the same weeks, Michael Jordan suffered a far more serious injury as well. Early in his second season, he broke his foot, an injury that nearly ended his career. But while one recovered and steadily marched toward becoming the greatest player in league history, the other kept returning to action, time after another cast, losing months and entire seasons to rehabilitation that never seemed to truly end. Only in 2012, nearly 3 decades after that draft, in an ESPN documentary, Bowie spoke words that put the dots on the I's in this story. He admitted openly he never once told the Trailblazers staff that his leg had continued to bother him before the draft. Team physician Bob Cook, commenting on that admission, refused to accuse Bowie of lying. In his view, it was more a trait of elite athletes who are used to playing through pain in silence rather than a sign of dishonesty. Over 10 seasons in the league, Bowie played for 3 teams, first 5 years in Portland, then 4 years with the New Jersey Nets, and finished his career with the Los Angeles Lakers. Out of a possible 820 regular season games, he took the court in only 511, a number that speaks more eloquently than any words about why the conversation about him almost always comes back to unrealized potential. His final statistics look quite respectable for a player of his position: over 5,500 points, nearly 3,850 rebounds, and 900 blocks. But not once in 10 seasons was he invited to the league's All-Star game. The phrase Bowie over Jordan outlived both his career and the decades that have passed since that June evening in New York. It became a symbol of poor choice in sports in general, applied to any draft, any trade, any decision that in hindsight looks like a fatal error.
Few remember at the same time that at the moment of the selection, Portland's logic was perfectly sound, that league general managers unanimously considered Bowie a safe investment, not a gamble. His body failed him where neither his technique, nor his mind, nor his character let him down. Today, looking back at that evening in 1984, it is hard to call Sam Bowie's story a story of failure in the usual sense. Rather, it is a story of a man whose physical ceiling turned out to be lower than his talent. A story where the decisive factor was not a mistake of choice, but the fragility of one specific player's bones at one specific point in space and time. The doctor who held his medical chart even before the draft calls him a man of his word and integrity.
And perhaps that is exactly how he should be remembered, not as a line in the list of the draft's biggest blunders, but as a player who fought honestly against a body that time and again refused to be on his side.
If this story resonated with you, check out other videos on our channel about the tragic fates of NBA players from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Links will appear on screen right now.